The Gentlementor.
I'm gonna say that yes, and I agree with all of that, and I believe now that I'm looking at it that way and thinking of it that way, actually saw some of this starting prior to the Ukrainian situation. And I've been noting probably for the last 6 or months so that like I like to watch various talking heads figures from a broad spectrum of people, and I've noticed that they seem to be kind of coming together and less the dogma stuff and more of the unity stuff.
Right.
And to the point that like in the last week, a couple of those guys have actually been together on the same podcast.
Mm.
And it's
Interesting.
Like, that's encouraging.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see like a group of these guys potentially becoming what we could say is like new founding fathers, maybe for a new global way of thinking through things and dealing with problems rather than, in closed off nation states, which everybody says doesn't work. So, okay, let's come up with a new plan. Well, no, we don't want to do that because then we can't make war machines.
Why would it not work? I mean, is the love of God not global? Is it not one world?
It is, but even though God doesn't see them, we like to believe in these borders. We've really invested a lot in this whole
it's true
border culture, as you may have heard from Eddie
That's
Izzard.
True. We got to have our place on the map.
The flag talk, yeah, man. It's of critical importance to us. I don't know why. We all agree that like none of us actually own any of this, right? And like eventually you're gonna die, and you're really gonna not own it in a very serious way forever.
It's just leased temporarily.
Yeah. So. But that's why I want to point to the Old Testament here and say that I think they had a great take on this. I think that buying and selling in year of Jubilee thing, I think that's a great idea. I think it underlines the idea this isn't really yours.
Right.
Yeah. You can sell it to him and get the money, and he can buy it from you, but it's into 75 years, everything goes back.
It's done.
Like
it's
it never happened.
It's not yours. Yeah.
Makes people a little more circumspect, but I digress. But yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the greatest things that I've seen through all of this, and I pray to God that I hope it was true, because I don't know that they could stage the video, but seeing the people from Ukraine coming into Germany in the train station.
Yeah, I saw that.
And the German people were there with signs. Thousands of families were there with signs saying, "We can take one, we can take two, and we've got one room," whatever, and signs that were drawn with stick figures and whatever to cross over the language barriers. And that's just like, that's people. I don't, you think, you think of Germany, and what kind of view do we have of German people currently in the West? Yeah. They're killers. They're murderers.
Yeah. That World War II stain is a long stain.
Right. That goes a long way. But then you look at that now and you're like, my gosh, they're just regular human beings. They really have the laws of God written on their hearts, and they're ready just to do something for their fellow man, wherever they come from. And that's just like, that's the pinnacle of humanity right there, just to be ready to be able to help someone.
Yeah. And I think it's a funny joke, but I think that
it wasn't a joke.
No, not that part. The World War II part, the long stain part.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah,
I think that motivates it in a certain sense. I had this just reminded me.
You mean hold on? You mean that motivates the German people to do more?
Yeah,
gotcha. I like it.
And at first we said, oh, they've got guilt, they've got shame, and I don't think it's that. Because, and here's, as you were saying that, we were talking about that, man, I had this thing that happened this week, just the other day. I had a personal exchange of ideas with another individual that I'm rather close with. I'm going to try to keep everybody safe here.
All right. Protect those innocent.
And this person had done something that has been a repeated problem in our relationship and is not being fixed. And it's been a problem that we've discussed many times in the past. And I said, now because of what you've done, your integrity is ruined. I no longer trust you, and you're starting over at zero. And the person immediately broke into tears.
Why?
Because that's hard. It's not, from the outside, it's not unreasonable. It makes sense, but it's hard. And the person sat there crying. And I said, you know I'm not doing that to you, right? And looked at me and I'm like, what? And I'm like, do you know how many times it's been done to me? I would never do that to you. I wouldn't do that to somebody I don't like. You don't deserve to have to go to the bottom rung and start over because you made a mistake. Even if it's a mistake you've made over. That's not right. But because I've been in that situation, I can be compassionate in that situation.
Right.
And because German people have been in that situation, they can be compassionate in that situation. There's something about having been in that situation firsthand that will change everything in your response. Because you know what it's like to be that person.
Right.
And you want to mitigate that. You want to stand in the gap. You want to get between them and what's coming at them.
So what you're saying is that the Kuwaiti people, the German people, are the most susceptible to the kindness in their heart for people.
Compassion. Genuine compassion. I have suffered this, and I will not allow you to.
The Polish, let's take the Polish. I mean, the Germans marched right into Poland. The Polish are welcoming the Ukrainian people in by the droves. And because they have that, well, that makes sense.
Everybody is, because what really makes sense is that when these things happen, there's one group of people that gets rich and everybody else does the killing and dying.
Yeah.
And we're recognizing it, that there are governments and they do shitty things.
Yep.
And all the shitty stuff happens to the people down here in this space.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why they continue to do this.
Right.
And these people are all getting fed up. As soon as all these people all around the world can get together, they don't have to do anything violent or crazy. They just got to go, no more.
Yeah.
You're done. You're fired.
That's all it takes. That is all it takes. Is for
as
people
soon
to
as
go,
we remember they work for us. That's the whole premise. They are supposed to work for us.
Man, that's all it takes. It's just for people to go, oh, hold on just a second. What?
A moment of realization.
Okay. No,
changes
you're
the
fired.
game.
Yeah.
That's it. You're fired. We don't want you anymore. We don't like what you do.
Yeah.
You've made lots of money and bought lots of homes. Go to one of them and leave us alone now.
For sure. But they can't do that because they've got this addiction to power and addiction to it's not money. It's not money anymore because you know, somebody like
money's
Putin
relative to them. Billions and billions.
Money's never an issue.
It's all about power.
It's all about power. It's all about control. It's all about my word trumps everything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like I said, everybody wants to like beat down on Putin and everything and like, okay, cool. Yeah. He's a bad guy. You know about all the stuff our government's done?
Mm. Okay.
To their own people?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Not even invading it. I mean, you go back, if you want to go back, and you say we're colonists. Well, okay, we're calling. What has the American government done to its own people in the last 200 years? Like let's narrow it down.
Things.
Let's narrow it down
things.
to scientific experiments that the government has perpetrated on its own people in the name of science and medicine.
Right.
That little bitty sugar cube sized block has scores of atrocities.
Oh, sure.
So anybody looking at the United States government with any kind of animal head on going, get a clue.
Like a buffalo head.
Yeah. Get a clue.
Yeah, get a clue.
Our hands are just as bloody.
You take that perspective over 200 years of what the United States government has done to its people and its native people, blah blah blah, et cetera, whatever you want to add in there, and then you throw that into you throw that in next to what the Nazis did to the Jews in the concentration camps. Small percentage.
Line it up against Vlad in Ukraine.
Well, of course. Yeah.
I mean, but that's what's coming next. You know, the pictures with him with the Hitler mustache and all that stuff. And it's like, I'm not saying he's a good guy, but equating these things is not truthful.
Yeah.
This is not Nazi Germany. As much as
No.
that's become the go-to, I think that started. I can't remember. I'm going to track that down. Where did that start? Where did we come back with that as like the thing? Was that with Bush or was it before him? Where like anybody we disagree with becomes Hitler. Oh, I disagree with you. You're Hitler. I'm like, you might want to study history and get in touch with what Hitler did.
Right.
It was a little worse than he disagreed with you.
Yeah. And yeah, he had a thing with the Jews specifically and anti-Semitism. That's whatever word that is.
Anti-Semitism.
Anti-Semitism.
He had issues with lots of groups of people.
Sure, he did. But now it's just now we're looking at, okay, because let's face it, Putin's going to be thrown off the world stage if he's anti-Semitic. But now he's just anti-human. And he's just everybody.
I ought to tell you something too. there's a few indicators in that sentence as well. Like I said, there's no reason to belabor the point and go in all the details. Yeah, there's a lot of iffy stuff here. All these guys are members of the World Economic Forum. Let's not bring that. Little information everyone may not know. All of these guys, including the president of Ukraine, president of Russia, all of the presidents of the countries, all belong to something called the World Economic Forum, where they get together and talk about things they're going to do to manipulate currency.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
So these guys,
we have to do that in order
to for the
greater
last
GP.
Yeah. For the good of everybody, because that's what everything's for. So for the last, 10, 20 years, these guys have all been on a private softball team together. And now all of a sudden they're going to jump up on TV. We're at war. Like, really?
Yeah.
Sounds to me like Lockheed Martin's got some hardware to sell. That's what I smell. That's who I see working.
That they found in Afghanistan, probably.
Them weapons of mass destruction are everywhere.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I found some out in the garage the other day. I was cleaning up, looking for a license plate.
Weapons of mass destruction. The weapons of mass destruction are owned by Mark Zuckerberg.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Social media.
Sorry,
we're waxing way political here.
I know
We're drinking and talking like our dads. This is great.
Let's just stay in this channel and see how many people just punch us in the face in the next 6 weeks when we throw this out on the internet.
You are going to hate us. If you have a political opinion, you will hate us because we will probably destroy it.
Listen, here's the thing. And I think I can speak for you too, Doug. We're pro people.
Absolutely.
That's
the number one thing. Preach
that is the number one thing. We are pro people. So I don't care what you identify with, who you are shooting at. I don't care. We're pro you. We're pro people. So, and that's all it is. Yeah, there's a lot of corruption in the world. There's a lot of things that are going on right now that are really crazy, but it's been happening since the beginning of time, and we've all learned to deal with it, and we all learn to move past it, and we all learn to heal, and we learn to move forward, and we teach our children about how not to make these same mistakes again as we move forward in time.
Yeah, and I hope what we begin to see is where the real lines of division are, because we are thrown so many false flags of division, as you said before, whiteness.
That's so good.
Male, female, Christian, all these different things they use to divide us, and that's all they are. Labels and stuff we throw at each other because they threw them to us, and so we start, I'm going to beat you with this thing. Stop.
No. The only thing that should divide us is if we're not human.
Right.
That's the only thing that should divide us.
That's what this whole thing comes down to. You argue with anybody, Ukraine, Russia. There's a human cost here. Yeah. The people doing the killing and dying will be human beings who probably are in an economic state where they don't have any choice but to be in the military. Maybe they're just innocent people living in their house and the military is plowing through. Whatever it is. It's not these leader people. It's not the people you see on TV. The people you see on TV are guys in suits that live in mansions and drive in fancy cars. And it doesn't matter if they're Republican, Democrat, Russian, Ukrainian. They're loaded. They're wealthy. Yeah. All the people being victimized are people like you and me. Yeah. And the only way we help that is sticking together. As long as we get buffaloed into following this narrative that they keep putting out in front of us, we got to keep the focus on people. And that's what our focus is all about, as I think you may have said.
I think a lot of things we don't realize. I go back to what Andy Stanley said, that everybody's behavior makes sense to them. And when it doesn't make sense to us, It's because there's something we don't know. And, you know, I don't want to be the guy who's going to all of a sudden have a soft place in my heart for Putin.
Come
But
on.
there's something going on in his heart, in his mind, in his soul, in his spirit, something going on that's perpetuated him to do this. We just don't know what that is, because his actions make sense to him. It makes sense to him to invade Ukraine, to cause war, to send all these young boys into battle, and they don't even know what they're doing. They don't even know why they're there. They don't even know what they're doing. It's a special operation.
Yeah.
And they're just like, I'm here to serve my government. I'm here to serve my leader. And God bless them. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
The only thing that we know is what we are told by our government and our media.
True.
We don't know.
Do you think that's all coming to an end?
I hope. See, there was a time.
Do you think that we're starting to decentralize information enough that
when I mention these guys that I watch on the internet getting together, that's one of the really hopeful things that I see about it, is that people are starting to, well, they're not starting to, people are way veering away from mainstream and turning to guys like these.
Yeah.
Who are maybe not journalists, but are allowing people to say, what's your opinion, allowing the free exchange of information and ideas.
Right.
And that is worth a lot. If you can't count on the media to present you with, you know, the fourth estate impartiality to some level, and that's what the media is supposed to do. The media, the press, was what we used to call it. The press is now the media, is supposedly there, just like the government's supposedly there to serve the people. The media is supposedly there to keep the government honest. Well, they work for the government now. They work for pharma. Right. As long as advertising is what pays for everything, we got a bad circle loop that's just going to keep happening.
It's broken, yes.
Same thing happens when we talk about lobbyists and corporations. Our politicians we elect work for them. They don't work for us. All we do is put them in office. Everything they do after that is for that corporation that pays them. Yeah. We've got to stop that. We're the boss. We've got to go to the politicians and go, this isn't going to work anymore. You work for us. Either you work for us or you go home. Yeah. But that party politics is what locks us in. We can't break out of that. See, everybody's always said, we need term limits. We need term limits. We need term limits. Here's the fact. You don't need a law for term limits. What you need is conviction. That the best thing for your country and the best thing for you is to make sure no politician becomes a career politician.
Yes.
And vote them out. Do not let them stay, no matter how great they were. At the most, a second term. But you're done. Now, we all hate Vlad. But here's my problem is some of the people that I know that are working against me in my own government are setting up shop in this place. Now, again,
okay, go ahead.
I don't want innocent people to die, and that's what always happens.
That's always
it happens. Would suit my ideology to go, tough luck, Ukraine. But it's not going to hurt the Ukraine government. It's not going to hurt Zelensky or Malinsky or any of these people. It's going to hurt people living in houses that are just trying to get their kids breakfast.
Yeah.
And I don't care where you're from or what kind of flag you fly. You don't deserve to have a bomb come in on you when your kid making your kid breakfast.
It's true.
You don't deserve to get killed because rich guys want to fight it out to see who gets oil rights.
All right. So let me take a minute to grasp what you just told me. If this is true.
Oh, I don't know if it's true. That's my opinion, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, obviously you've been watching and reading some things, and you know there are some things that allude to that. You know, with Biden's son, James, Josh, Harry, whatever his name. What's his Hunter? I don't know, something in there.
That was one of my favorite Babylon Bees thing. Was the guys at the Ukrainian art museum struggling to protect all of Hunter Biden's priceless artwork.
Yes, I saw that. That was hilarious. Some of their stuff recently has been really good. Naturally, if things that are happening, it's ebb and flow with Babylon Bee. You know, if there's nothing going on in the world, they're just kind of.
It's not as interesting. There's cute stuff here and there.
When stuff hits up, it's like, you guys are brilliant. So it's almost like
Babylon B and woke Jesus. If you're following Babylon B and
you've
woke
got
Jesus,
to
you
follow
got
both of
everything
those
you
people
need.
because
You got everything you need.
that's me. Yeah.
Andy's like, I'm like, have you been following woke Jesus? He's like, yeah, but sometimes I said sometimes it's funny and sometimes I agree with it. I said, yeah, it's like watching an Archie Bunker. It's like sometimes he's so stupid and old, and then other times it's like, yeah.
Gosh, that hurts. So what you're telling me, so this changes my entire perspective of what's happening over there in Europe. So what you're telling me now is that what Vladdy is doing is just simply an attack on the whole Biden family and administration, right?
Well,
Is that what's happening? What I'm starting to see right now?
Yes. And what's come out in the last couple of days, which everyone denied at first, but now even Russia's saying it's true, and there are people in the military, in the intelligence world who are saying it's true, is that there are bioweapons labs in Ukraine that are funded by the U.S. government. And that's what he's actually in there blowing up. He's not wiping out Ukraine. He's taking out surgical strikes against labs that we are funding. NIH and Dr. Tony Fauci, who we all know now has lied. We've got him in front of Congress perjuring himself.
Fauci has lied?
Perjuring himself in front of Congress. So. But this guy we're protecting.
So would they be bioweapons that potentially could cause a pandemic?
Who knows? We're on YouTube, so we wouldn't want to speculate about stuff like that.
We don't want to.
All I'm saying is, and what I want to keep people in mind of is there's always two sides to every story.
Of course. Three sides.
We live in a culture where one side of the story has not only been co-opted, we have eliminated the other side of the story to a large part.
Oh, of course.
Only sharing one side of the story.
Right.
And the side of the story we're sharing is Russia bad, Ukraine good.
Right. Three sides.
Again, never want to minimize human suffering. But that's different than the narrative.
Right. But with anything that's going on in government, in conflicts, in territorial disputes, there are always the bystanders that happen. There are always the innocent people who die.
And the terrible thing is, you know what? They're nothing more than extras for news sound bites.
They're people.
Yeah,
people. Dan.
They are. That's when you go back to the border crisis. Just to use that jump out and use that as an example. I had so many people were upset about that. We're talking, what about the border crisis? Let's fix it. What I want you to recognize is that neither Republicans or Democrats want to fix it. They want it to not get fixed so they can continue to use it as a political football. They move it up and down the field and nobody scores and nothing ever really changes, but everybody gets to claim that they had some kind of moral victory.
Yeah.
Who suffers? Not them. The people in the shiny blankets. Behind the chain link fence that you're working.
The ones that are in the cages.
Kids in the cages. That's who's suffering.
Yes, that's who's suffering.
Do something for them. Nobody ever did. Everything was about I gotta hit, and strike some points for my political ideology.
Right. And can we put this on video?
People continue to suffer. But we need that because we need them in the background when we're making our ideological point. When do people matter? When does it start to happen? When does all this, I hear a lot of people using the word compassion. I don't think anybody knows what the word means. I hear like compassion. I don't see any.
Yeah.
I hear people say the word, but I don't see people do the thing. When we see those videos from Germany and those people running going, I can take one, I can take two.
Yeah.
Compassion.
Yeah. I'll take that.
Americans putting Ukrainian flags on their Twitter profile, 0. There's no value.
Right. There is.
What an absolutely insignificant, meaningless, easy, costless way to voice your opinion. Man, nothing could be more American.
I agree. And I agree. You're right. But back that up with
no.
Back that up with a donation to Compassion International. Back that up with a donation to Convoy of Hope.
Oh, for sure.
Don't just flippantly throw that out and say, yeah, I'm pro-human, I'm pro-Ukrainian. Big deal. I'm pro golden retriever.
It's the same thing as the church. It's the same thing. It's like, oh, let's talk about how much we care and how much we feel and how much we want to do, and then just let people suffer and walk away from it. It's like, man, that's so jacked up. I hate lifeguard parties, man.
I know. I saw something on the news the other day.
I don't want to hate anybody. I don't want to piss on anybody's parade, but man, I get tired of lifeguard parties. Just do something.
I want to see somebody. I want to see people take action. I want to see people.
That's what I'm saying. I'm tired of lifeguard parties. Let's see lifeguards lifeguard.
Right.
People are dying.
Let's take some action. Let's
find
an organization. Find an organization that you know is doing some good over there.
Find a person.
Find a person that you. Deborah has said it so many times. She goes, "I want to go to Poland. I want to go to Poland. I want to take in kids." I was like, Deborah, we'd come back with 27 children.
And then you'd spend the next 3 years complaining about all these kids. Why do we bring all these kids? We should have never done this.
I was like, maybe two, maybe one, maybe two. That's all we need.
No, man, that's the whole thing. That's what I was trying to express the other day. And I was in a conversation with somebody that was really like genuinely frightened of like that someone might hit the button and there might be mushroom clouds in our future.
Mm-hmm.
And freaking out about Putin and freaking out about this is like, but all of that aside, there's people.
Yeah.
I mean, if what's going on in Ukraine, according to mainstream media, is going on, there's people living in houses. Like I said, feeding their kids breakfast with soldiers and jets and tanks. It's not right.
There are people without houses.
Yeah.
Because they've been blown to smithereens. And they're walking the streets. And
there are people who are in a house and then moments later
the house was
suddenly homeless because the house went up in flames. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's human beings going through terrible things. There's something about this that smacks me. There's a weird thing, and I experienced it some with my dad, and it's like for people with low self-esteem, low self-concept, it's easier to feel better about myself by knocking somebody else down.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are used in this situation, as we have for the last 8 or so years, I guess, 6 or 8 years. Political situations come in. All we do is use them to knock each other down.
Yeah, for sure.
We're Americans. Most of us have more than what we need.
Yeah.
These people that we're using to hit each other with are actually suffering. Maybe just stop.
It's interesting.
Maybe just stop weaponizing like suffering people would be a good start.
That's true. That's very true. What's interesting though is you look back on war in history. War has always happened on a battlefield. You've got two fronts. You can even go back to World War II. Now, we did a lot of bombing in Germany. There was a lot of bombing in some of the European places. We did a lot of bombing in Japan, and there's a lot of casualties, innocent lives that were lost. But you go back in history even further than that. You go back in the Roman times. You go back in the Scottish and British times, where the war happened on the battlefield. The only people who were in danger were the people who were on the front. But that's not the case today anymore.
Oh no.
The Gentlementor.